Hi, and welcome back to Positions for Active Labor. I am excited for this lesson because we get to really pull everything together. You have some pain coping techniques, you have some strategies for keeping labor moving. Now we're going to just go over some basics of where should you be and how do you kind of take all of that and put it together in a really strong game plan. All right, so let's start by answering this question. Should you be in bed during labor? And the truth is that being in bed during labor is necessary if you are getting an epidural. And it's very comfortable. Most studies show that if you walk into a hospital room and the bed is in the center of the room, almost every mom will gravitate towards the bed and attempt to spend all their time in that bed. However, if you rearrange the room so that the bed is not in the center, almost no moms naturally want to be in the bed. And I get it. It really seems you're doing a lot of work, you feel a little bit tired. It seems like it would be a nice place to be, but being in the bed does have risks as far as potentially slowing down your labor, making things take much longer than they need to be, lowering your own blood pressure, and just increasing the chances of abnormal fetal heartbeats. And that's just the chances of your baby's heart rate not doing as well during birth. So if we're going to try to avoid the bed, hold on one thing. The next video will be about what do you do if you're in the bed, because there are strategies to kind of counteract these if you do find yourself there. But let's talk about what you can do either up until you get the epidural or throughout your labor if you're going completely epidural free, so that you can get through labor and have the easiest, simplest path through this time where you're really doing the majority of the work. All right, so what is the best position? The truth is it does change, and that you should labor, push, and give birth in whatever position you find most comfortable. If you really, really, really feel like you're drawn to one specific place, then keep going back to it. But we're going to give you a bunch of ideas and help you understand the reasoning behind why these work and how these help get your baby out sooner and more safely than some of the more common things that you've probably seen in TV shows with moms laying in beds and just being on their back or on their back or backside, kind of like just tilted a little bit on the bed. All right, so what are active positions? When we are talking about an active position for birth, we're talking about a position where your baby, as they're coming through your pelvis, can actively move through these pelvic bones. You can see that the pelvis, it has so many bones that move, especially that tailbone. So you don't want to be putting pressure on your tailbone because then it can't move back and make space for baby, right? Same with the bones on the side can move and make a lot more space. That's why in early labor, we did a lot of things to open at the top. And now in active labor, and pushing, you'll be doing things more to open the bottom. Typically, these are anything where you are out of bed, not like right now I'm sitting kind of hunched in a chair with I'm sitting on my tailbone, right? As most of you probably are if you're on a couch, if you're on a chair, if you're just sitting like you would in an office where there's not going to be any freedom for those pelvic bones to move. So sitting, kneeling, standing, all of those really give you a lot of space and a lot of movement, and your baby makes it easier for them to navigate the path coming down and out. One of my favorite tools that I always recommend for moms to either have at their house or that the hospital birth centers almost always have is a yoga ball. Using a yoga ball or a birth ball during labor, it can give you some counter pressure, so it will give you a little bit of pain relief. And it can also help you find a really easy, natural sway and movement, which can help your baby rotate. Remember, we talked about earlier how important it is to move during contractions, and you want to continue that like constant rocking movement through your contractions. So when you're using a birth ball, you can sit on top of it, which is pretty standard. A lot of moms spend a lot of labor here. You can also sit on it either in front of a couch, a table, a bed, and lean forwards. You can also kneel behind it, which allows you to really rock forwards and rock back. And if you've been doing a lot of the forward leaning and you're just kind of feeling like, you've just been getting kind of hunched, you can always just spend 1 to 3 contractions leaning back. That can just give a nice release if you're feeling a lot of tension just from the constant leaning forwards. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about that forward leaning. When you are leaning forwards, you do help your baby take that shorter path forwards. They are more likely, if they have this space, to go this way instead of all the way around where they have that potential to get stuck in the back. Or spend a lot of time in the back, just making your labor shorter. Also gives a lot of access for counter pressure. So if you're feeling like your hips are sore, your body hurts, having your partner squeeze your hips can really help relieve some of that pain. It lets you have both the supporting baby in their rotation as well as the counter pressure to help you with your pain. Another favorite is just being in a slow dance. This mom is actually a little bit further along where she is starting to push. But dads, just hold or partners, hold your partner up and just dance with her. Give her that little sway and be her strong and steady. Let her rest her head on your shoulders between contractions so she can rest. And help her remember to move and sway and drop a little bit lower with her hips during contractions. Hands and knees positions is another really easy place to spend a lot of time during labor. You can be on the bed, the floor, behind a yoga ball. You can actually be on hands and knees in the bathtub. This is a great way to rest during labor, especially during active labor, is to get in the bath and to rest your head on the edge of the tub. One of the reasons this is great is when you are in hands and knees, really helps your pelvis open a lot. So it's very useful for larger babies. It's useful for babies that are in difficult positions. It is one of the most natural positions to labor in, and it is really, for most moms, it's very grounding. It feels very safe. It feels very like you're connected to a strong foundation when you're on your hands and knees. So definitely give it a try. And all right, so let's talk about one thing that I want you to expect when you're in these upright and active positions. When you're moving, you're going to see a lot that your contractions are staying close together typically, and they're going to be intense. You'll be getting some pain relief, but typically you'll be getting the full contraction, right, where they are long enough and strong enough to be making change in your body. One thing that I've really seen with a lot of my moms is that if you do have access to a bed or if you do have access to a bed where your contractions are slowing down, it can be really easy to try to move into that position where your contractions space out, because it gives you a chance to relax. And sometimes that may be the right game plan, but I just want to give you a warning that alongside of being able to get a rest, which is really great, you're also probably not going to make as much progress. Most people just won't make as much progress in the bed as they will when they're up and moving. So because of that, I always encourage my moms to try to stay out of the bed as much as possible, and then spend at least half the time up and moving. And when you do need to relax, or when you do need a break from the intensity, to use the bathtub where you can still be upright instead of the bed where you're laying on your back and you're restricting the pelvic movement. If you do get in the bed, use that side lying position that we talked about earlier, where your legs are up and supported by pillows. And there's some other things that you can do that we'll talk about in the epidural section. All right, so these next few pages, I just have some cheat sheets for you for active labor positions. I would recommend printing these out so you have them. But again, going back to the legs up or leg supported with the hip sways, anything you did during early labor as far as the laying chest to ground, doing the pelvic tucks, resting forwards on the chair or the toilet, being on the yoga ball. These are just here for you so that you know. Doing some squats can feel really good, especially if your baby is already rotated forwards, having your partner hold you and slow dance. Partners, this is one thing we didn't really talk about. If your partner is in hands and knees or doing the chest forwards on the ground, if you take a sheet or a towel, you can actually shimmy their hips for them so that they can relax, and you can do that so they get that progression in their labor, that really great progression, and baby has that chance to kind of really shift into the right place. And then a couple other things, you guys, walking stairs. If you have access to a staircase, it just makes such a huge difference up and down the stairs when you're doing your half the time moving. It'll make a really big difference. Labor is typically jump in progression when moms do that. If you're going to be in the tub, you have many different options. You can be squatting in the tub. You can lean backwards in the tub, support yourself with pillows, put some candles up if you want, leave the water on to get some pressure on the back, or use a cup or something like that to pour water on your back or on your belly during contractions. Walking is so huge, you guys. The more you can be moving, the better. Again, that's a really easy way to get some movement during labor. And if you're walking, it's okay to stop and take a break when you're actually contracting and lean forwards on your partner or lean forwards on a wall or whatever you need to feel really supported. And then again, if you do lay down, try one of these side lying positions where you are very much on your side, not at all tilted on your back, just so that your tailbone has that ability to open up and make space for baby to come down. All right, well, this was an easy one. If you do have any questions, let me know. Print out these last couple pages so you have them in case you are kind of forget what to do during labor. And you guys, I think you are pretty much ready for active labor. You know how to cope with the pain, what to do with your body, and how it's different than early on. I absolutely know that you can do this. So if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you in the next video.